returned to Jerusalem, verses 12 to 14, and we will finish with verse 14 today. Then the apostles went back to Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives, which is about half a mile away from the city. They entered the city and went up to the room where they were staying. Peter, John, James, and Andrew, the four good friends, Philip and Thomas, Bartholomew and Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon the Patriot, and Judas the son of James. They gathered frequently to pray as a group, together with the women and with Mary, the mother of Jesus, and with his brothers. Verse 12 tells us that Jerusalem is about half a mile away from the Mount of Olives. You have a little note S there, and S tells us that the Mount of Olives is a ridge a little more than 1.6 km long, directly east of Jerusalem. So if you're asked the question, where was Jesus when he ascended to heaven, what would your answer be? Where was Jesus? Where were the disciples or where were the apostles when Jesus ascended into heaven? Mount of Olives. Jesus ascended into heaven from the Mount of Olives. And when he comes back again, he's going to land on the Mount of Olives also. In the same way that you saw him go up to heaven, he will come back again. And we are told that this Mount of Olives is half a mile away from the city. Look at note T. Some versions have a 7 days journey from the city. A 7 days journey is a Jewish expression and is calculated based on several Old Testament passages to be around 1 km long. A faithful Jew was not to travel further than that on the Sabbath. What is significant about this half a mile away? You will remember when the children of Israel were in the wilderness, everywhere they went, they set up camp. And in the camp, they had to set up the tabernacle. So say the tabernacle was set up here, right? And a 7 days journey would be the distance from the tabernacle to the furthest part of the camp. Because every Jew was expected to travel, to walk to the tabernacle for worship on the Sabbath day. And so the furthest distance that you could walk to the tabernacle would be this 7 days journey. It is about half a mile, about 1 km. And then he's allowed to walk back. And he's not supposed to do any more walking for that day, otherwise it will be considered extraordinary. Do you understand that? The significance of this half a mile away. Now, they entered the city and went up to the room where they were staying. And there is a special note on the room. It is the upper room. Look at upper rooms in Palestinian cities. Note you. They were usually the choicest rooms because they were above the noise of the crowded streets and beyond the prying eyes of the passers-by. For the wealthy, the upper room was the living room. Sometimes upper rooms were rented out. Often they served as places of assembly, study, and prayer. And it is possible that this is the same upper room where Jesus had the Passover feast with his disciples at the end of the book of Luke. Now there's a lovely list here of names that you can tuck away into your memory. Peter and John and James and Andrew. They're going to become our good friends. Philip and Thomas, Bartholomew and Matthew, James, son of Alphaeus, Simon the Patriot, and Judas the son of James. Alright, all the apostles. And I want you to note Simon the Patriot. There's a little note W there. Some other versions call him Simon the Zealot. Note W. The Zealots were the freedom fighters, revolutionaries who were dedicated to the overthrow of the Roman government. A zealot. From the word zeal. You know the word zeal? What does zeal mean? If I came into class and I said to the evening class, so glad you're here, let's study chapter 1 of Acts and let's read it together. You'll be wondering, what class are you coming to? But I came came to class and said, so nice to see you here. Now, BK is a wonderful subject, and I'm teaching it to you with all my heart. I'm teaching it to you with zeal, am I not? Say yes. I'm teaching it to you with zeal. Alright? Now, a person who does things with zeal is a person who does it with great enthusiasm, is zealous, his passion is in it. And I'm passionate about teaching. Simon the Zealot was with a group of revolutionaries. They were freedom fighters. They were guerrilla fighters. And these were the people who, Simon, before he became a disciple of Jesus, he belonged to a group of people who had covenanted, agreed together that they're going to bring down the Romans. So what did they do? For all the big festivals, they will be looking very prim and proper and very religious with all their robes around them. Inside is a devil. And they will be mingling with the people in the streets. And when they see Roman soldiers or people they didn't like whom they thought were against the Jews, at one signal they will all pull out their daggers and stab them and kill them. They were that